The big news out of Michigan, and kind of, I think it's important to high level that, because the big news is Josh Gattis, their offensive coordinator, is leaving. Where is he going? At this point, he's going to Miami, Florida. Going to go be the offensive coordinator, not for the Dolphins, not the head coach of the Hurricanes, but the offensive coordinator for the Hurricanes. So you look at this, and I think an intelligent mind would think, wow, I mean, Michigan just made the college football playoff. They're in the Big Ten. It's Michigan. It's top 10 program in the country, regardless of what you think and how you feel. I mean, some people may put it top 5 all time, whatever. I'm not here to debate that at this point, but it has one of the most recognizable brands in all of college football. Historically, they've been very good. They're in the Big Ten. They've got a great TV deal. They've got a huge endowment. They've got a ton of money. It's a program that really cared about football for a long time. Get into that in a minute. Really cared about football for a long time. And now you have your coach gallivanting around, looking at other jobs. He decides to come back. His defensive coordinator ultimately had left, going to his brother. And now Josh Gattis is leaving. And so you look at this, and Josh Gattis making a little under $1 million at Michigan. We'll see what the terms of his deal are at Miami. It's a private school, so disclosure isn't quite the same, but I'm sure that it'll get leaked out, potentially what he was making and how that looked. But just from the TV revenue standpoint, you look at this, like the Big Ten, SEC, currently it's going to jump up. They're going to get into the 70s here soon. Current TV deal, Big Ten revenue is bringing in like $54-ish million per school, per team. Like I think that was based on the 2021 numbers. SEC, right around the same. ACC, they're 32. So there's a $20 million gap every year. This isn't like a one-off donation. That's every year a deficit that schools in the ACC have to compete with the Big Ten and the SEC schools, simply due to their television deal. That doesn't factor in attendance and all these other elements. So these are big branded programs with huge budgets. And so Michigan should be able to pay them. They should be able to pay guys whatever they want. And for a long time, and we don't want to get in the assistant coach arms race. We don't want to pay all these guys. Well, if the SEC is going to be willing to pay their assistants significantly more, they're going to get the best coaches. And that happened for a long time with head coaches. So all of a sudden, love him or hate him, Urban Meyer was the guy that changed that in the Big Ten. Came in, hey, this is what I'm going to make. These are the facilities we need. We're going to have to start paying assistants. And it's going to be uncomfortable, but $500,000 isn't cutting it. We can argue about the merits of paying coaches, whatever they're getting paid, but the reality is the market drives it, and they drive a ton of revenue to the university if they're a good program. And so Urban kind of changed that. He changed that whole paradigm. All of a sudden now, you look at James Franklin, you look at Mel Tucker, you look at some of these guys, like Purdue is paying their head coaches. I mean, you look at what Minnesota stepping up with PJ Fleck. Like, there are programs, Scott Frost in Nebraska. Like, even though some of these guys maybe have underperformed or you feel like haven't been great, they're still getting paid. Michigan should have the ability to do that. They hit Jim Harbaugh with a haircut last year, made him whole. I guess he donated the money back, but they should be able to pay in the millions for their coordinators, and their top assistants should be getting close to $1 million. Josh Gattis came from Alabama, reigning Broyles Award winner. You should be able to step up and pay him. Why would he leave? Maybe he was tired of dealing with Harbaugh and his archaic offensive system, which is good and it can be successful. What he did at Stanford, you get 2-3 tight ends on the field, you move around. That stuff works in the NFL. Watch Kyle Shanahan, some of these other guys we talk about as genius, even Andy Reid, they move around and do some stuff to be able to get schematic advantages. They also air it out a little bit, and they're going to push the ball down the field. And so Josh Gattis brought some of that to this Jim Harbaugh system. He is the reigning Broyles Award winner for voted best assistant coach in college football. He came from Alabama. He's a really good recruiter. He was helping to evolve that system, bringing some sanity to an insane world with what he was able to do. And they basically took that offense. And it's like, hey, here's what we're doing. I know you've got McNamara as your quarterback. He's limited what he can do offensively. He's not really a runner, but you know what? Let's see if we can protect him. We'll run the football, move it around, get McCarthy involved, get some of these other young weapons, and see if we can kind of build this thing. And they're expecting him to, go compete in the Grand Prix, and they're giving him a Pinto to go drive. And Josh Gattis did a pretty good job of it. And the most successful season they've had in a long time. So he's dealt with that. Is there a pay issue? We'll begin to feel that. But he puts out this this text to his players when he's leaving, talking about not being respected. And he would never recommend anybody to stay somewhere where they're not respected. And so I don't know if that's discussions of him trying to get more cash, a better title, maybe become the head coach in waiting, the heir apparent to Jim Harbaugh. Maybe it's the fact that they were favoring Mike Hart, their favorite son, over him, who's the running backs coach, who came back. And yeah, he's a Michigan man. He checks all the boxes, but does he have that offensive mind that Gattis does? I don't know. And so maybe he just felt slighted and disrespected. But for a coach like Josh Gattis to take a lateral position move to a university that's in an inferior place, Miami just started spending money. They're way down the pecking order right now in the ACC. This isn't the Miami of the 80s, the Miami of the 90s and early 2000s. They're trying to do something great, but trying is the operative word. And they're hiring a coach as their offensive coordinator in February. It's how late into the hiring cycle they are. So they're building a good staff, but it's taking some time. Josh Gattis is leaving. With that, McDonald, their D coordinator, went to Baltimore. Gattis now in Miami. Both those guys had short tenures there. Jim Harbaugh has gone through 33 assistant coaches since he got there in 2014. 33 assistants since he was hired, 2014, 2015. It's pretty remarkable, the churn that he has had. And it finally seemed like he got these guys in the right spots. Defense playing really well. Offense looked to be evolving, and now they're both gone. And so you have to ask yourself the question for Michigan. And if you're a Michigan fan, if you're a fan of college football, does Michigan as a university, I'm not talking about the fans, I'm not talking about the players, I'm not talking about the alumni. Does the university still care about football the way that it used to? The days when Bo Schembechler and Lloyd Carr and all these things, the champions of the West, do they still care? Because here's the thing. You vote with your time and your dollars about things you care about in a capitalist society. You spend a lot of time on it, and you spend a lot of money on things you care about. They're not spending a ton of money on football anymore, and it doesn't appear that they're spending a lot of time on it either, and they're not investing into it to make sure. There's some people like, hey, if your coach is out there interviewing for other head jobs in the NFL, move on. Go dig in, find the next guy. Matt Campbell, Luke Fickell, whoever it is. Josh Gattis, promote him, whatever. But you're going to let your coach do that. But do you really care? Is there like a high give a damn factor when it comes to it? He's flirting around, and you're trying to figure this out. Your coaches are leaving. You're trying to figure it out. It's not the money that you have. It's the money you're willing to spend on it. And so there's been talk up there how there's been resistance from the university not to accept the transfer portal. They don't want to take players' grades, and Michigan values themselves as a prestigious academic institution, and it's got great academics. We're talking about a handful of players a year. It's a transfer portal. You're not talking about bringing in 1,000 undergrads. So they don't want to make exceptions or be able to bring guys in and transfer credits so that they could be eligible for the transfer portal. Rumblings where the university, the athletic department, they don't want to work to modernize and get this NIL deal off the ground. Working at Ohio State, Michigan State, they're working on it. They brought in a lot of transfers. The SEC, they're digging in. You starting to see all these schools, the big blue blood programs, they should have a massive advantage. It's Michigan. You have a large metro area, Detroit, adjacent to you. The state cares about it. It's a national brand. There's no reason at all why they should be struggling with this unless they're resisting. So you have to ask yourself, do they still care? They had all this momentum heading in to the offseason. It was the best season they'd had, heck, in almost 20 years, and they're riding momentum with young coordinators. Things are moving great. Those guys are gone. Can't get the NIL stuff going. Transfer portals out there. They've got the 8th ranked recruiting class, top 10 coming in. They've got a good one. Will they be able to maintain that? Are they going to be able to keep this momentum? They didn't want to really play in the 2020 COVID year. There's a lot of Big Ten schools that did. Michigan was a little bit more hesitant than most. And so you have to ask yourself, does the university, the academics, the people who are in charge, the president, do those folks still care about Michigan football the way that they did 10, 15, 50 years ago? I'm not seeing that at this point. I'm not seeing those results based upon the portal, the NIL, how the athletic department's being run, the lack of dollars that are being poured into this thing. It's a high stakes game now in college football.